It was a rainy night in March 2024 when Emily, a travel photographer, found herself stranded on an empty highway in northern Pennsylvania. Her car had broken down, and the storm was growing fiercer with each passing minute. Desperate to find shelter, she spotted a dimly lit sign in the distance, Hilltop Motel, vacancy. The motel looked old and neglected, with paint peeling off its walls and flickering neon lights. Emily hesitated but decided it was better than staying in her car amidst the thunderstorm. The receptionist, an elderly woman with vacant eyes, handed her the key to room 7 without saying a word. As Emily entered the room, she noticed a strange smell, like damp wood mixed with mildew. The room was sparsely furnished, a single bed, a chair, and a mirror hanging crookedly on the wall. As she settled in, the rain intensified, and loud thunder shook the walls. Trying to distract herself, Emily turned on the TV, but all she got was static. She decided to call her best friend to let someone know where she was, but her phone had no signal. Suddenly, there was a loud knock at her door. Emily froze, glancing at the clock. It was 1:30 a.m. Who could possibly be out in this weather? She approached the door cautiously and asked, "Who's there?" No response. When she peeked through the peephole, she saw a man standing outside, drenched, with his head tilted downward. His posture was unnatural, as if his neck couldn't support the weight of his head. Terrified, Emily stepped back and locked the door. The knocking continued, louder and more frantic. Then, just as suddenly as it started, it stopped. Emily sat on the bed, clutching her phone, hoping for the rain to stop so she could leave. That's when she heard it, a faint scratching sound coming from the closet. She mustered her courage and opened the closet door, only to find nothing inside. But when she turned around, the mirror reflected something she couldn't see in the room. The man from outside was standing behind her. Panicked, she grabbed her bag and ran out into the rain, leaving her car and belongings behind. The next morning, the police found Emily wandering the highway in a daze. When they checked the motel, they discovered it had been abandoned for over a decade. Room 7 was empty, except for a cracked mirror and a chair facing the closet. Moral: sometimes, the shelters we seek in desperation can be more dangerous than the storm itself. On a rainy June night, 3 college friends, Rachel, Mike, and Tony, decided to take a shortcut through the woods on their way back from a party. The rain had turned the dirt paths into muddy trails, and their phones were nearly dead. But they laughed it off, confident they'd find their way out soon. The sound of rain hitting the leaves was almost deafening, but something else lingered in the air. A faint hum, almost like a lullaby, seemed to follow them. Rachel stopped suddenly and pointed to a faint light deeper into the woods. Hoping it was a cabin or a ranger station, they made their way toward it. As they approached, the light flickered and revealed a small, decrepit house. The windows were broken, and the door hung loosely on its hinges. Against their better judgment, they entered the house to escape the downpour. The interior was damp and filled with broken furniture, but what caught their attention was a single candle burning on a table in the center. Tony joked, "Looks like someone's been waiting for us." But Rachel wasn't laughing. She pointed to the walls, which were covered in childlike drawings of people with hollow eyes. The drawings seemed to depict a family, with one figure standing apart, drawn larger and more menacing than the others. As they explored, they heard footsteps upstairs. Mike, trying to be brave, called out, "Hello. Is someone there?" The footsteps stopped, and an eerie silence followed. Suddenly, the door slammed shut, and the candle went out. In the darkness, Rachel screamed, "Someone's here." They used their phone flashlights to find their way out, but the layout of the house seemed to have changed. The walls were closer together, and the hallway they entered was now a dead end. Then they saw it, a shadowy figure at the top of the stairs, its hollow eyes glowing faintly in the dark. The figure began descending slowly, and the friends bolted toward the door. As they ran into the storm, the house seemed to disappear behind them. To this day, none of them can explain what they experienced, but all three refuse to step into any forest again. Moral: the shortest path isn't always the safest, and curiosity can lead to dark places. In September 2024, David, a delivery driver, was returning home late at night after a long shift. The rain was relentless, making it hard to see the road ahead. As he drove through a rural area, he noticed a figure walking along the roadside. The figure wore a long coat and a wide-brimmed hat, and its head seemed to be tilted downward. David slowed down, thinking it might be someone in need of help. When he rolled down his window to offer a ride, the figure stopped but didn't turn to face him. Feeling uneasy, David drove off, but in his rearview mirror, he saw the figure standing in the middle of the road, watching him leave. A few miles later, his car radio crackled to life, despite him having turned it off. A distorted voice whispered, "You shouldn't have stopped." Panicked, David turned off the radio, but the whispering continued, growing louder. He pulled over to regain his composure, but when he looked out the window, the figure was standing a few feet away. Its hat obscured its face, but David could feel its gaze piercing through him. He drove off at full speed, but the figure appeared again and again, always ahead of him, no matter how far he drove. The rain seemed to intensify with each sighting, and David felt like the storm itself was alive, trapping him in its grip.
The fog lifted and the
Finally, he reached a gas station and ran inside,
There was no
trembling.
sign of Rachel, and
The attendant listened to his story and nodded solemnly.
On any map.
"You've seen the rain walker,"
To this
he
day,
said.
the friends are haunted
The
by
attendant
memory
explained
of
that the rain
vanishing
walker
road
was
and
a
their lost
spirit
friend.
said to haunt the area,
Moral:
appearing to
the allure
travelers
of the
during
unknown
storms.
can be dangerous.
Those who
Sometimes,
stopped for it were
what
never
lies
seen
beyond
again.
is better left undiscovered.
David never drove that route
These
again,
terrifying
and
tales
every
from
time it rains,
2024
he
remind
stays
us
off
that
the road.
world is full of unexplained
Moral:
mysteries.
not all who walk in the
The
rain
unknown
seek
has a
help,
way of
some
pulling us
seek
in,
something
but
far
it often
darker.
leaves behind more questions
These
than
stories
answers.
remind us that rainy nights,
Whether it's a
though
haunted
beautiful,
cabin,
can
a
hide
cursed hotel
unspeakable
room,
horrors.
or a phantom road.
From
The lesson
haunted
is clear.
motels to cursed
Tread
paths
carefully,
and ghostly
for not
wanderers,
everything can,
the world
or
is full
should,
of mysteries
be
that
understood.
defy explanation. So the next time it rains, stay safe, stay indoors, and remember, some storms bring more than just water.